the Dal Lake by Srinagar, Kashmir. Many call Kashmir Shangri-La, a paradise on earth. Indians call it the rose in India's bouquet. It is indescribably beautiful, and was very peaceful. Not anymore. Two nuclear powers struggle for Kashmir. We are here to talk with the people of Kashmir.
Well, life this time for Kashmiris are, honest to God, sort of, I would say, miserable life. In 10 years' time, 100,000 people are killed by guns or by bombs. Kashmiris want to be independent, or they want to be of their own. They don't want to have a pressure from Pakistan or from India too. But Kashmir is already divided in two parts this time, even three parts, because little bit is with Pakistan this time, some is where under India this time, and little bit also taken by China also.
They claim that two have just been killed by crossfire, a man and his pregnant wife. The mourners are angry. One hears them shout, the innocent have been killed by Indian soldiers.
They had nothing to do with politics or anything like that?
They had nothing to do with politics. Thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away they were from any political thing. We have no grudge that if a militant or a mujahideen strikes and he is killed in retaliation, that's fine because he is there and he has taken up arms for the freedom of his land. But day in and day out, dozens of people are getting killed by excesses of the army and by killing of people who are not held only in custody, but people who are walking on the streets, people who are doing their jobs. They are fired at, shot by the police and by the paramilitary forces. 150 families are in our household. So we now hate India like anything. Like anything.
What do the people think of the militants?
As heroes. As heroes.
The Indian army perceived the guerrillas as fanatical, ruthless Islamic fundamentalists. Many Kashmiris call them freedom fighters. The army has created an entire museum containing seized weapons.
These are the pictures, various civic action undertaken by Indian Army to improve the life of Kashmiris. And the hand that fires the gun can also fire the spirit of friendship and brotherhood. We have been very successful up to a greater extent to win over their heart and minds, because we are doing the real welfare of these people, whereas these militants and extremists comes and trouble them and troubles their relatives, extort money from them, whereas we help them out in settling in their lives.
Three to 400,000 Indian soldiers are stationed in Kashmir. They patrol the streets regularly. Srinagar, the capital, has deteriorated since the troubles began. In the countryside, things aren't much better. People fear the army, and in some cases also the guerrillas. It is dangerous to help them. It is also dangerous just to be near them. Rafique is 31 and a mother of 5. She is one of thousands of widows punished by the past 10 years of war. Rafique's husband was killed by Indian soldiers. He was crossing a bridge when the soldiers shot him. Had he done anything wrong? No, he was on his way to work. 2 of his friends were beaten and 1 got away. Did you hear the shooting? Yes, we did. I sat with my children and waited for him. Rafique says she is often sick from crying because she does not know how she is going to manage with the children. We do not make any money. We only have Allah. I cry all the time and ask others for help. Do the neighbors help you? They used to, yes, but not anymore. What about your brother-in-law? No, they don't even talk to me. And your sister-in-law? No. They don't help? No. Rafique lives with her late husband's family, but they see her solely as an economic burden. Her sisters-in-law want her and her children out of the house. But getting her own residence is out of the question for Rafique. She has no money. And she can't get a job, for who would look after the children? The children have no clothes, and there are holes in their socks. These three go to school, and they need everything. I walk from door to door and ask for little things. Some give, others don't. Is school free? Yes, but exams cost 5 rupees. Where do I get that from? It is 10 days since I last did the laundry. Are they your own clothes? Yes, mine and the children's. I have not had any soap before. Rafique and her children have an asset, and it is cared for almost better than anything else. It is a cow. It gives milk to the children? No, not anymore. Bad luck seldom comes just once. Rafique could marry again, but no man would take on the children as well. Why don't you marry again? No, that's out of the question. Many have asked, but I don't want to. Where would I put the children? For me, there's only Allah. For the children, I am both father and mother. But what can I do? My heart is broken. Rafique and her tragedy is typical of at least 12,000 young widows in Kashmir. A group of sociologists from Srinagar University have been examining their circumstances and reckoning the number to be closer to 30,000. Widows of the rebels, or widows like Rafique, whose husband happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Most of them do not have any financial help because they either have no parents alive or secondly, they have been either ditched by the in-laws also, because the in-laws don't want them anymore, because the connection, the bond between them is no more. The son is no more, you see. If her parents are not alive, she wouldn't go to her brother's house because she thinks that she will not be treated very nicely there. And how long they will sustain her and her family. So what she prefers is staying with her in-laws, even if the in-laws are abusing her. Basically, she has developed a fear in herself. If there is a male member, if there's a male member in the family, she's herself quite awkward with that male member. Okay, that's one picture of it. The other side is that if there is no male member in the family, she fears the military and the paramilitary forces, because she never knows when the forces are going to enter her house and abuse them.
From Srinagar, we have moved west towards the line which divides India from Pakistan. We are under Indian Army protection, with military vehicles in front and behind us. Parts of the route are dangerous, with guard posts every few hundred meters. High in the Himalayan mountains, artillery placements are ready to send bombs over the mountain ridge into Pakistan. This is the world's most heavily armed area. In the army town, Uri, we talked to the military leader. According to him, all blame for the problems in Kashmir lies with the enemy in the mountains, Pakistan. Pakistan not only finances, but trains the Kashmiri rebels, and sends them and its own soldiers in over the border, disguised as Indian Kashmiris.
Especially in the last 2 years or so, I would say 3 years, actually 97 onwards, this had come under very heavy shelling. It was started by the Pakistanis in about 97 June for the first time, where suddenly there was a spurt of shelling, and it carried on through the summer of 97, towards the end of 97 again a little bit, and it resumed around May, June 98.
Towards the ceasefire line between India and Pakistan, Heavy artillery exchanges have drastically reduced the population. The ones left behind are vulnerable. The army has requested a group of locals to join us and talk. An Indian official translates what the head of the village says.
He says 25 years ago, they were very well off, they were much happier here. But in the past 8 to 10 years, since this militancy has started in the whole of Kashmir, these people also have a problem. Because every now and then some militants come, they harass them, the army comes, they try to capture the militants. And irrespective of all these things, there is continuous shelling and firing from the Pakistani side, from across the border. As a result, their houses are destroyed, the cattle is destroyed, all their fruits and lands get destroyed, and most of the people have got killed.
The only option for most of them is to work for the army, which is dangerous because of the rebels. Front posts on both sides of the line are placed on the mountain tops, where many of the treetops are shot to pieces by years of shell fire. It is less than 1 kilometre from the ceasefire line, with Pakistan down in the valley. The ceasefire is always uncertain. So beautiful and at the moment peaceful, Pakistan and Kashmir.
There are very frequent firing. Every now and then, they start off with small arm firing and later land up with heavy artillery shelling.
How often and how many shells?
We have had around 1,200 artillery shells landing in a span of about 3 months. So whenever there is a problem, whenever they start firing, they target this post in particular. So it is easy for them also. And as a result, there's heavy firing which is generally seen.
Everyday life is tough for the private soldiers, under constant high alert in the bunkers along the line. They are young men used to the Indian heat, but they all say that they are proud to defend their country. We go back 52 years to the dramatic days in 1947 when the fate of Kashmir was determined. It was a time when Kashmir was a principality ruled by one of India's legendary Maharaja, with castles, now museums and hotels, with incredible riches, and with a throne of the purest gold. The formal responsibility for the future of Kashmir lay on the Maharaja's shoulders, and his son, Karan Singh, brought up to be Kashmir's next ruler.
I was the Crown Prince. My birthday used to be a public holiday for many years. But my father was very enlightened in that way. He made quite sure that I wasn't a spoiled brat.
But Karan Singh never became Maharaja. He lives today in Delhi because Kashmir ceased to be an independent state in 1947, cut to pieces by its neighbours. The Maharaja, Karan Singh's father, was Hindu, but most of his subjects were Muslim. But why did he give up his kingdom to India? A decision many Kashmiris and Muslims have never forgiven him for.
Well, it's difficult for me to answer that question categorically. In his letter to Lord Mountbatten, along with the instrument of accession, he did say that he was considering which of the two dominions to join, or whether it would be better for a state to stand independent with good relations with both. But of course, what happened was that Pakistan forced his hands, because when they launched the invasion in October of 1947, raping and pillaging and burning and destroying, he then had no option but to ask for aid from India. I don't think realistically it was possible for Kashmir to have remained independent, for Jammu Kashmir to have remained independent, because you had Pakistan was there, you had this very powerful Indian nationalism developing, and don't forget the borders with China, with Tibet and with Central Asia. So it was too strategic an area, I think, to be allowed to just remain. It will be too vulnerable.
Are you optimistic?
Well, I am basically optimistic, but there seems to be no let up in the militancy. In fact, it is becoming more and more strident and more fundamentalist.
Politics is often heard from the pulpit, because this Muslim religious leader is also a politician with independence on the agenda. Many of his political colleagues were imprisoned a month ago.
When there's more and more pressure applied on the common man, he finds some solace in religion, and he goes towards more and more towards religion. And when there's an oppression or policy of oppression from the government of India, he also becomes hardline. He feels that because I'm a Muslim, I'm being targeted more by the Indian soldier. So it's better that I stand up for my right. We are demanding that the people of Kashmir should be given the right to self-determination, which is the fundamental right of the Kashmiris to determine their future, as was agreed by India and as was promised to the Kashmiri people by the government of India, and especially by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, who came to Kashmir and he told the people of Kashmir that you will be given a choice to determine your future. So unfortunately that promise has never been fulfilled. So that's the reason why that the people of Kashmir are up against the Indian system.
The problem today is not Hindu-Muslim, it is the people from across. Now, they have had an obsession with Kashmir and they wanted these things to be happening. So it is they who incited the people here. They're the ones who got these people back, got them across, and started training them, equipping them, arming them, and sending them back. And had it not been for the Pakistanis' direct involvement, this thing would not have happened here. It just cannot happen. Even today, after 10 years, all that has to happen is the infiltration and the exfiltration has to stop. If that can happen, you'll find the insurgency will finish off in 4 months, 6 months at the most.
31-year-old Afghar Ali is one of those arrested from Sialkot in Pakistan. He is married with 4 children and has a sick mother. He was caught the other day armed with a Kalashnikov. He says a farmer had promised him 4,000 Danish kroner to sneak over the border and seek out a contact person. He made a rather pitiful impression at the police station, surrounded by policemen.
Why did you do it?
I was forced to do it. I needed the money.
You traveled with an AK-47. Why did you do that?
The weapon was to protect myself. Last time I did the journey, I was with 3 Indians and some were killed, amongst them a smuggler. We have to have weapons to defend ourselves against both sides. Afghar Ali says he thought he just had to smuggle something or other to the contact man on the Indian side. The police do not believe this.
During investigation, have you been beaten?
A little bit in the beginning, but not since. They do not cause problems. I get fed regularly and I'm allowed to sleep and rest. The weather is becoming bitterly cold in the streets of Srinagar. Business is slow because there's not much money around. Tourist revenue, once Kashmir's most important income, has completely dried up. The best-selling items at the moment are kangaris, small Kashmiri charcoal ovens for heating under your garments. There is still production in the carpet industry, and now with more children weavers than ever. Most of them have lost their fathers. There is little indication of things getting better soon, and the UN idea of a referendum on Kashmir is probably unrealistic.
It's impossible because firstly it is lost relevance in the sense that there is no legality to that now. You see, the government of India has always been maintaining that after although it had, the UN resolution does exist, but that has no loss, the ground situation has changed. What has happened across, what has happened in India. So things are quite different now. It cannot happen. It should not happen, and there's no need for it to happen. After all, you do have people in the other parts of the country also wanting. We had Punjab problem. We had the problem in Northeast. We can't have referendums all over. There will be no India thereafter then.
The past year's fighting is especially visible in Srinagar. Gutted houses caused by the fighting between security forces and the rebels. People also complain about the frequent house-to-house searches. One married couple we met will never recover from one particular incident. We heard the knocking on the door. My 14-year-old son Imtiaz opened. It turned out to be BSF soldiers, and they shot him in the head. But the drama escalated. The couple's other son ran out onto the veranda, where he was shot down. They were the couple's only two sons. Both went to school in Bangalore, further down in India, and had just come home on holiday. They had never had anything to do with the rebel movement. The boy lay with his chest shot to pieces, and the other boy lay on the veranda, but nobody came to help him. I tried to bandage them with some clothing. What else could I do? The eldest kept asking for water, water. A neighbour ran out to get hold of a car, but nobody came because the road was sealed off. We were in such despair that we could not say anything to one another. I just wanted to pour petrol over me and set light to myself. I wished to die by throwing myself under a lorry. Yes, throw myself under a lorry. But I hesitate because it would bring shame on my daughter. Even though I have sent 50 letters to the state prime minister, to the Home Secretary, the Indian government, the Human Rights Commission, and the department chief, the case, to this day, has not been brought before a court.
Till date, the challan was not produced in the court of law till date.
But like most conflicts, the one in Kashmir is not simply black or white, because beneath the current conflict lies a much less well-known tragedy, the tragedy of the Kashmiri Hindus. 10 years ago, the area's total of 350,000 Hindus had to flee to the south, away from Kashmir's Muslims. Some were killed, some fled, but most of them continue to live in overfull camps around Jammu. It began with warnings from the mosques, with slogans like, "An independent Kashmir with Hindu women but without Hindu men, out with the infidel." So we decided to leave. The Hindu refugees make an effort to educate their children. They teach them languages and computer science. The Kashmiri Hindus used to be North India's spiritual elite, philosophers, poets and politicians. Our culture and history is in ruins. We've been pulled up by the roots. Like so many of his neighbours, this man was wealthy. He had farmland and fruit plantations. Now they are almost all unemployed, and most have lost everything.
We are faced with the threat of extinction. As a distinct ethno-religious community of Kashmir, we, the Kashmiri Pandits, are the victim of, number one, Islamic fundamentalism. They are the victims of successive state, that means Jammu and Kashmir governments, successive central governments, government of India. And at the same time, we are the victims of human rights organizations of this country. Even the international human rights organizations they are yet to take proper cognizance of this hapless community.
With so many victims, Kashmir is no longer the paradise it once was.